Why on earth would you even consider skipping your own daughter's wedding? The furious voice of a young woman echoed through the phone. I had received the wedding invitation 3 months earlier and was sure I had sent back the RSVP, indicating I wouldn't be attending. Yet, here was this woman, seething with anger, accusing me of bailing at the last minute and ruining the ceremony. She demanded I take responsibility for the situation. Perplexed, I repeatedly explained that I had notified them of my absence well in advance. However, the woman's next words caught me completely off guard. My name is Alicia. I have a childhood friend, Mike, who used to live next door. Our families were close as we grew up together. Mike, 2 years older than me, moved away for college and eventually landed a job at a big company in New York. Meanwhile, I attended a local college and found work at a small company nearby. Shortly after, Mike married a college classmate, and I attended the wedding as a friend. 3 years into their marriage, they had a daughter named Bella. Mike and his wife often sent me pictures and videos, and Bella was absolutely adorable. She inherited Mike's good looks, especially his nose. Mike doted on her, showering her with affection. His wife seemed kind, and Mike appeared to be living a happy life. But 2 years after Bella was born, everything changed. Mike unexpectedly divorced his wife and returned home with Bella. The reason? His wife had been unfaithful. She had been having an affair with an ex-boyfriend for about a year, and Mike couldn't forgive her betrayal. He gained custody of Bella and moved back home. Alicia, it's been a while. I still can't believe my wife was cheating on me. When I went to visit Mike after his return, I was shocked by how much he had changed. He had lost weight and was visibly devastated by the divorce. He was filled with anger, calling his ex-wife a lowlife and expressing deep resentment toward her. Despite his efforts as a father, Bella, only 2 years old, missed her mother and cried often. Concerned for Mike and Bella, my family and I began visiting regularly to offer emotional support and help with Bella. Over time, Mike slowly began to recover. When Bella started kindergarten, she began calling me Mom, because I frequently looked after her. She grew very attached to me. People around me started saying that Bella needed a mother figure, and since I hadn't been in a relationship for a long time, I decided to marry Mike for Bella's sake. I didn't have romantic feelings for Mike, but our parents were close friends, and with their encouragement and the strong persuasion of those initially planned on marrying Mike, once I made the decision, I vowed to take care of both him and Bella with all my heart. We rented a condo a little further from our parents' homes and began our new life as a family of 3. I had been working full-time at a local company, but I quit my job to focus on raising Bella, as Mike wished. With support from both of our families, Bella grew up healthy and strong. Though we faced our share of challenges, the 3 of us built a happy life together. However, when Bella was in 5th grade, everything changed. Mike was forced to resign from the major company where he had worked for years. He was scapegoated for a problem that was actually his boss's fault, despite pleading his innocence. Unfortunately, his boss wielded significant influence, and no one dared to stand up for Mike, fearing repercussions. Though he quickly found a new job at a small local business in our hometown, the salary was drastically lower than what he had been earning. As our finances tightened, we could no longer afford the rent on our current apartment. We had to move to a smaller, older, and cheaper place. I returned to my previous company and worked desperately to earn enough for Bella's tuition. Though our parents offered to help, they were both living on their pensions and struggling to make ends meet. Their house was too small for us to move in with them, so all we could do was accept their well-meaning support. I did my best to manage our family budget frugally, ensuring that the 3 of us could live healthily. But Bella, who remembered our more comfortable life, struggled to accept the change and started taking her frustration out on me. If only Mom could earn more money, she would say. And to my disbelief, Mike sided with her. I couldn't contain my anger. If Mike hadn't been fired, we wouldn't be in this difficult situation, and this led to a major argument between us. Perhaps due to the strain in our marriage, Mike eventually had an affair. Bella is now a sophomore in high school, old enough to choose which parent to live with but still in need of a guardian. Although Mike's salary at his new job was much lower than at his previous position, it was still higher than mine. Thinking of Bella's future, I decided it would be best for her to stay with Mike. When I discussed it with her, she said she would live with her father. I'll live with Dad and my new mom. She's nothing like you. She's a rich lady. Plus she started her own company and is the beautiful CEO everyone talks about. With you, it's just poverty and misery. Besides, we're not even related by blood, right? So it's fine for you to live miserably alone in that shabby apartment forever, isn't it? Bella was already calling Mike's mistress, Mom. I was stunned by her hurtful words and the fact that she now referred to me as, you. At that moment, Mike walked in with his mistress. True to the reputation of the beautiful CEO everyone talked about, Kathy was indeed strikingly attractive. Without even offering a greeting, she tossed a wad of bills in front of me, a smug smile on her face. Here's the compensation for the affair. It's $80,000 in total from me and Mike. If you want it, go ahead and take it. I'm feeling generous, so pick it up. In my fury, I wanted to hurl the money back at her, but I took a deep breath and picked up the bills instead. Mike and Bella immediately pointed at me, laughing cruelly, calling me vulgar and poor. Kathy, with a smug expression, added, so that's settled. Just sign the divorce papers right away and stay out of our lives. We've even paid compensation, so don't bother us with any lawsuits later. With that, the three of them walked out, still laughing at me. I gripped the wad of bills tightly, my mind racing with thoughts of retaliation, and the urge to slap all three of them crossed my mind. But as I considered it, I realized that $80,000 was more than I would likely get in court, especially as alimony for both of them. So, I decided to use the money to start a new chapter in my life. 8 years later, I had completely moved on from Mike and Bella, absorbed in my busy life. Then, out of the blue, my parents informed me that a wedding invitation had arrived at their house, addressed to me, from Bella. When I examined the invitation, I noticed that the unable to attend option had been crossed out, and the attending box was already circled. My parents said it had been like that from the beginning. Feeling a bit uneasy, I crossed out attending and rewrote unable to attend, then sent it back. I could have ignored it, but I didn't want to cause any confusion for the venue by not settling the guest count. 3 months later, while I was at work, a colleague informed me that a woman claiming to be my daughter was on the line. When I picked up the phone, Bella's furious voice immediately erupted from the other end, cutting through the silence. How could you ditch my wedding, Mom? Her voice was so loud and angry that I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. Even then, she continued her tirade. You've ruined my wedding. Listen, I don't have a daughter. Please stop calling me, I replied calmly. Huh, what are you talking about, Mom? We're family, right? Bella's tone suddenly shifted, her anger replaced by a high-pitched laugh, as if she had completely forgotten what happened 8 years ago. But when I responded with a deep sigh, her focus shifted again, to money. Hey, Mom, your company's doing pretty well now, isn't it? You must be making a good salary. I'm struggling financially because my husband's demanding alimony. You'll help me out, right? Your daughter's in trouble. As I said, I don't have a daughter. If you're having money problems, maybe you should ask your rich, beautiful mom for help. Bella ignored my words and launched into a rant about how difficult her life had become. It all started with a magazine. Kathy, the woman who married Mike, regularly bought a well-known industry magazine to monitor how her company was perceived by the public. One day, she noticed that another company had overtaken hers, the company I worked for. After my divorce from Mike, I threw myself into my work, determined to forget about my past. When the CEO suggested I take charge of our social media, I embraced the opportunity, becoming proactive online and securing media exposure. Our company, which had been quietly conducting honest business in our local area, started gaining recognition. Sales began to rise, and we attracted both local hires and top talent from other companies. This momentum led to even better products and further success. This turn of events was a huge blow to Kathy, who became desperate to surpass us. But instead of devising a smart strategy to boost her own sales, she resorted to badmouthing me to her clients, claiming, a company that hires such a woman can't be good. Her staff was shocked by this sudden, emotional behavior from their previously competent CEO. Many who voiced concerns were either demoted or fired, leading to an exodus of talented employees. As a result, Kathy's company began to falter, while ours continued to thrive. Unable to face this reality, Kathy lashed out at Mike and Bella, and the once glamorous life they had with her started to unravel. Bella and Mike, disillusioned by Kathy's dwindling wealth and increasingly hostile home life, found themselves constantly surrounded by angry voices. Unable to endure the tension, they would seek out people who worked with me, saying things like, I want to start over with Alicia, but Kathy's in the way, even breaking down in tears. But most of my colleagues were locals, and some were former employees of Kathy's company. Everyone knew my history with Mike, so they were treated with the disdain reserved for shameless opportunists. Despite everything, Mike and Bella were desperate to reconnect with me, believing that inviting me to Bella's wedding would force me to attend. They sent the invitation, fully expecting me to show up, even after I declined. They planned to list me as attending and flaunt my presence to the guests. But on the wedding day, when I didn't appear, things took a turn. Bella, who couldn't stand the idea of Kathy sitting in my mother's seat, ended up causing a scene at the wedding. The argument between them escalated, shocking the guests, who began to leave in disgust. The day ended with Bella being served divorce papers by her groom, who had finally seen her true colors. "Mom, come back home soon. Your company's doing well, right? I'll get rid of that woman, and we can live together as the three of us again. I can't handle everything falling apart," Bella pleaded, dragging me back into her mess. Every time Bella called me Mom, it gave me a headache. I repeatedly told her, "We're not parent and child anymore, so stop contacting me," before hanging up, but the calls kept coming. I eventually consulted my boss and had Bella's and Mike's numbers registered as nuisances, which brought some peace during work hours since they couldn't afford to call from another number. However, when I finished work and was on my way home, I found Bella, Mike, and Kathy all waiting for me. Bella, as usual, accused me of being heartless. Mike kept pleading for us to get back together, while Kathy furiously demanded money, claiming I was breaking our settlement by getting involved with them. "Hey, Bella, if you're having money troubles, maybe your dad should find a new rich mom. And Mike, you left me for someone else, so asking to reconcile with me now just makes you look like a man dumped by your current wife. Is that really how you want to be seen?" Mike and Bella, who had been so insistent, suddenly fell silent. Finally, I turned to Kathy with a smile. "I've kept my promise to you. I haven't reached out to these two at all. It's not me who's at fault here, it's them, trying to ditch you and sneak back into my life." I quickly turned and headed back to the office, leaving the sound of the three of them hurling insults at each other behind me. As they continued to argue, I called the police, reporting a family squabble that seemed on the verge of turning violent. Taking a different route home, I also contacted my parents to let them know that the situation with Mike, Bella, and Kathy was escalating. Coincidentally, Mike's parents were visiting, and they reassured me with a confident, "If they show up here, we'll teach them a lesson." I urged them not to engage physically, asking them to simply lock the doors and avoid any confrontation before hanging up. The next day at work, many colleagues asked if I was okay. Apparently, after I left, the argument between the three had escalated into a full-blown brawl, requiring multiple police officers to respond. Even with the arrival of the police, they continued to shout and cause a scene, completely oblivious to the growing crowd of onlookers. Eventually, they were each taken away in patrol cars, but not before rush hour commuters, including several of Kathy's business associates, witnessed the spectacle. This public outburst led to the cancellation of several deals, and Kathy, who had been so consumed by her grudge against me that she neglected her business, eventually went bankrupt. Though she initially sought financial help from her wealthy parents, they refused, insisting she take responsibility for her actions. While Kathy was dealing with the fallout of her business's collapse, Mike quickly divorced her and took Bella with him. They returned to Mike's parents, who, true to their word, gave him a harsh lecture and severed ties, telling him never to come back. Feeling unwelcome in a community where everyone knew their story, they quickly moved to another town. Mike, unable to cope, stopped showing up for work and was eventually dismissed after a string of unauthorized absences. As for Bella, she continues working, but she's struggling to repay the wedding expenses demanded by the groom she left at the altar. The three of them even showed up at my workplace again, but my supportive bosses and colleagues shielded me, and my vigilant subordinates promptly reported them. Eventually, the trio gave up when a burly security guard was stationed at the reception, finally putting an end to their harassment. Since then, I've focused on my work, determined to leave those three behind me. Our company has been thriving, especially since some of Kathy's former employees, disillusioned with her, came to work for us. Our boss is thrilled, and I'm making a conscious effort to live each day with humility, ensuring that success doesn't change who I am or how I treat others.